So using this as a reference for the defaults for the fridge, we're going to change them to settings that look more like the first three freezers that are here where my finger is. And I put down the parameters and then the directions on how to change it are here. This is how to get into engineering mode, so we're going to go over that. Pause the video if you need to know how to do that. So we're going to hit set, hit down to engineering mode, hit set again, change the first number to a 9, the next number to a 9, focus, there we go, 9, and then this is going to be an E, and then hit this, and it'll say FOC, and then SPH. We're going to ignore the SPH and the SPL. Those are the customer settable temperature ranges that are referenced here. Keep in mind you only have 20 seconds or so to keep changing the settings. It'll reset back to engineering mode. So the first thing we're going to set is SHL, and SHL is the low range of the high side. So set high temperature range, lowest setting. I hit set and it's set to 5. So that's the lowest setting for the high temperature range that the customer can set. Initially this is going to say something like 38 or something, so you're going to have to push the down arrow key a bunch of times or press and hold it until it gets to 5 degrees. You hit set again and you just go down to SHH. So set high temperature high, and that's set at 10 degrees. I've just picked these numbers, and again it means that the customer can set the temperature between 5 and 10 degrees for the freezer section. It should probably set a little bit lower than that, and this has been running well for 2 weeks until it lost power, and if there is a battery backup in here, it's dead, so the battery needs to be replaced. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn the high side for the freezer down to something more like 6.8, and then we're going to set the set high temperature range low to as low as 1 degree, kind of more in line with commercial freezers, which should hang around 0 degrees. So, and then there's set the low temperature range, low setting. So what's the lowest temperature that the user can set the fridge to? I've got it set to -6.2. Just press set again. And then set low, high. What's the highest temperature on the low range that the user can set it to? And I've got it set at 1 degree. So we're going to change it to 0.5 since we have our other range bottoming out at 1 degree. So hit set again. Now that you've set those, there's a couple more things you need to set. This is assuming you've had a power outage and you need to set everything up again. The high temperature alarm, and again, the alarm won't work if you lose power and it comes back on and there hasn't been any battery backup. So what's the point of the alarm? But the alarm will tell you if for some reason something else fails and the power stays on. And it will alarm also if the battery is working and it comes back on and it's out of range. It'll also alarm if it comes back on because of power loss. And it'll say something like ELE LOS across here to let you know. So we've just lost the engineering mode, so we'll just have to go back in there again. And that's why it's difficult to make a video and also program it at the same time. Can you walk and chew gum? So you want to set the high and the low, which I've set here to maximum of 10 degrees before the alarm goes off. And low seems a little weird, but I set it to -8.5. I don't know, you could have a runaway condition, I suppose, something, maybe if the cabinet was outside. AC is interesting because that's the number of minutes that the compressor has to idle. So that defaults to 1 on this unit, and I set it to 3, which is the same for all the other current units that exist. So that allows the compressor to take a longer break between cycles, and that's probably important for compressor life. DDC you do not need to change. In fact, if you set it it will cause the entire unit to reset itself, and you'll have to reset all your temperature parameters, so don't do that. But there is something called CDE, which is, if I can find it, looks like I passed it up. CDE, which I've set to 60 degrees. And the reason why I've done that is it defaults to 75, so it needs the coils to get up to 75 degrees before it'll finish its defrost cycle. And if your coils have iced up or something like that and gotten really cold, it's going to take a long time for them to get up to 75 degrees. Also, if the room temperature is only 65 degrees, they're probably not going to get up to 75 degrees. So you got to set that down. I've set it to 60. For the default on this unit, it's 45 degrees, but that seems a little bit too low, so we want it to warm up a little bit. What else? There's also an alarm feature, and again, it won't work if there's no battery backup. We'll get to it in a second here. There. Continuous alarm. Now this defaults to off, so if you've lost all power in settings, you want to set it to, it'll say off, and you want to set it to continuous. And then it would go off if it was outside a temperature range or if there was a power loss, and you'd press this button to silence it. But again, without the battery backup, if you lose power and it loses settings, it's going to think it's a fridge, and it's going to run happily between 34 and 38 degrees and cause everything to defrost if it loses power and there's no battery backup. So we definitely want to address that situation. But that's pretty much how you set it. Oh, and then the very last thing you'll set, you can do this in engineering mode or you can do it in customer mode, it doesn't matter, is when you're all done with those high range and low ranges here, set the high range low, set the high range high, so say that's between 5 and 10 degrees, and set the low range low, set the low range high, and say that's between -5 and 0 degrees. The next thing, the very last thing you want to do is go into here, into SPH, and that's the actual high temperature setting. And I've got it here at 5. I'm going to lower it a little bit. But you notice if I keep lowering this, it's going to loop around because it's going to go within the range that I set in the other modes that I showed you that we've already set. So let's say set it to 1.8, and the low range is to 2.2. That's fine. And that'll keep everything nice and cold. And then if you leave this alone for a while, it'll go back to customer mode. You can hit this button here, and then we're back in customer mode. Now in customer mode, you can only set a minor amount of stuff. We see that the code needs to be 0A1, so we'll hit set, or A1, I'm sorry. Yeah, 0A1, so 0A, and I don't know why they make it so complicated, but whatever. And now you can set SPH, which we saw before. It's the same setting, 1.8 degrees. You can set SPL, -2.2. You can set SCL, which is Fahrenheit or centigrade. You can set the alarm, continuous. And then that's, CL is for the clock. You can set the clock, you can set it to military time, you can do all this stuff, you can set the date on this thing, you can do all sorts of stuff in here, which is great and everything, but again, if there's no battery and you lose your power, you lose the settings. So basically here I'm just trying to go over how to turn what is a refrigerator into a freezer, at least temporarily.